Okay, so under rhythm and rhyme, rhyme is the correspondence of sound between the endings of words. All right, so under example, I don't know, try and find a rhyme for your name. Whitney bit me. It's a near rhyme, but it's a rhyme.
Salmon like salmon.
There we go. Write that down under example.
What were you gonna say? Like I'm gonna say it right now. If you can't say it, my face is you right now.
Okay, put away your phone because you gotta do the example. Perfect.
My brother was named.
Bowie and Zoe. She was named David or Bowie.
I wish I was
Darwin and
named
Darwin.
something.
Darwin and I'm not sure. My husband would be able to do it so fast. He can do it so fast.
Thank you.
I can't pop it.
Have you ever popped your hip?
I mean, I accidentally, yeah.
Oh
but
my
not on
gosh, it
purpose.
is so much fun to pop.
All right, rhyme scheme.
My finger.
You ready for rhyme scheme? It is the
Yeah.
ordered pattern of rhymes at the end of lines.
That rhymes.
I know. The ordered, what is it?
Pattern.
Pattern of rhymes at the end of lines.
Is that like A, B, C, B, 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 B,
Yeah.
A, B, or B, or
Okay, I just wrote the best poem of my life. I love cats, but I hate bats and rats. They're stinky and they make me want my binky. Okay, so our rhyme scheme, here is how we label them. You start with A, and then you find the next rhymes for it. So if this line was stinky, I wouldn't do another A, but because cats rhymes with bats, this is another A line. Because cats and bats rhyme with rats, there's another A line. Because rats and stinky don't rhyme, and stinky doesn't rhyme with any of these others, I've got to go to a new letter, but stinky and dinky rhyme. So I would have it like that.
Way of explaining that.
How would you explain it?
I would just say, these ones all rhyme, so they're A, and these ones rhyme, so it's B.
Yeah. Yeah, but let's say I go on and I've got a new word, hate and fate. Then we go into C, right? But then I go back to bats and rats, and I go there, bats. I go back to A.
Starts to get really wild when you get into it.
It's not a school word. So then, if I were just writing the rhyme scheme of this poem, I'd do it like that. All right. So you can write my beautiful poem if you want for your example.
You also wrote ABBA?
Yeah.
I wrote ABBA Babba.
Oh, you're gonna write Abba.
Hell yeah, dude.
All right, then go to slant rhyme. Next page.
Right? Get very small.
That's where it's like orange.
Right?
Yeah.
I saw an analysis that was like this in the right from different lines of
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah, with rap rhymes.
My
get crazy.
favorite one was you're playing a dangerous game, but strangely your range is the same.
Good. All right, so slant rhyme, it has like slash consonants. This is not consonants. I don't know why I said that. Before I had you crossed out, but if it is not crossed out on yours, make sure you cross out consonants. That's not what this is. Slant rhyme can also be called, though, add this into there, that it can also be called a near rhyme, N-E-A-R, a near rhyme. And that can be kind of easier to remember because basically a slant rhyme is like a rhyme. It is near a rhyme, but not quite a rhyme. So the definition is words with similar but not identical sounds. So sometimes that looks like consonants or like assonants because sounds are repeating, but they don't quite rhyme. So Whitney bit me is not actually a rhyme. It is a slant rhyme or a near rhyme because you look here, knee and bit me, it's not quite a rhyme. Or swarm and worm. This is the one I want you to use for your example. Swarm and worm, they have a similar sound. That orm repeats, right? But it's not quite. Swarm and worm do not quite rhyme. Yes.
This is also the only way that you can rhyme orange with anything, door hinge.
Yes, definitely. And rappers use near rhymes. Rappers use near rhymes all the time or slant rhymes. Like you'll notice Drake does it. Like Drake almost never actually rhymes. Drake just changes his pronunciation of things to try and make it rhyme. Like initial and issue, those don't actually rhyme, but you can say it, Anisha and Isha, and then they rhyme. That would be a near rhyme. So you can remember it as the Drake rhyme if you want. All right, an end rhyme. End rhyme is rhymes at the ends of at least 2 lines. Pretty obvious. Yeah, a rhyme at the end of at least 2 lines. So these are all end rhymes because they're happening at the end of lines. Most of the rhyme that you notice in poems repeat end rhyme. At least when you're first noticing it. And don't worry about an example for that one. The opposite of an end rhyme, I guess, it could be an opposite, is a rhyme involving the middle of the line. So rhyme involving the middle of the line.
Is that internal, right?
Yep, that's internal rhyme.
Because they are great.
Okay, this is nonsense, but I just wanted to show you how this works. So here you've got an internal rhyme because cats and bats rhyme. It's not at the end of the line, but you can still say that it's internal. Okay. Yes, that's the one that I gave. It is a rhyme involving the middle of a line. All right, and then we've got another internal rhyme here because here is R and star. So it's harder to find these, but you'll notice this isn't quite, it's not at the end of the line, it's involving the middle of the line. It's rhymed with another end line, but it's still called internal rhyme because it involves one that is in the middle of the line. Okay, and the last one is I rhyme. That's on there, right? Yeah. An I rhyme is a similarity between words in spelling. Similarity between words in spelling, but not pronunciation. Similarity between words in spelling, but not pronunciation. Shakespeare will use these all the time. So when you say them out loud, it doesn't sound like they rhyme, but when you look at them on the page, they look like they rhyme. That's why they're called an I rhyme. Love and move. They don't sound the same, but.
Love and love.
Love. Yeah. Yes.
Why would you use it? It doesn't sound the same.
Because I think it's a difference in how we expect poetry to be used. Like when you are reading a poet might see that as just as valuable of an experience as actually listening to the poem, right? And so if it's rhyming on the page as you actually read it, that could be a good way of having it rhyme. But it can also be a way of disrupting your listening. Like if it sounds really nice to rhyme and a poet is just like rhyming over and over again and you're getting into this nice cadence and it feels good, and then they put in like an I rhyme like that and it disrupts it, that could be useful too for them. So sometimes they'll use it when there's a line they're like, pay attention to this line, Okay, so on that, it's color is ivory, the ivory sheet that I gave you at the beginning of class. What, see the off-white one?
Green.
That's cream.
Cream, okay,
It's
fine.
cream. It's cream.
Well, they call it ivory downstairs. I know ivory is white though, so I don't know. Anyway, there is an acronym there. Last class, we talked about poetry circles. And we had all of this like discussion about the feminist poem in an artist studio. And like I made you like slow down and talk about each element of the poem, right? This is another way of doing that. This includes all of the same aspects of the poem, but it is an acronym that teachers will use sometimes. Stilts. All right, I gave you a breakdown of what the acronym is on that green sheet of paper. So it's like structure, tone, imagery, language, theme, sounds. It's everything that you usually are paying attention to when you're reading a poem well. You might not be doing it in that order, but it's like all the elements of that you need in order to understand the poem. So I would like us to go through step by step and talk about David Bowie's poem, Changes.
Are we gonna write?
Yes. So we're going to start with structure. It says, what does the poem look like on the page? How is it spaced? Where are the line breaks? So for this one, keep your poetry words out. For this one, I want you to find any enjambment, any, I don't think there's caesura in this, but if there is, you could find some caesura. No, there probably is. Depends on how you. Anyway, so you're trying to find anything in the poem that stands out to you about the actual structure of it. Is it mostly end stopped lines? Is there any repetition, which we call refrains, and so on? And then you're going to just jot down your thoughts in that first box. Lots of injections. It's when the line continues after the next line. Like instead of ending the line with like a pause in how you would say it, the sentence kind of just goes through. It's called in jam. You could comment on what's what changes. Nice. Okay, you got a few initial ideas now. I want you to share them with the person next to you. And person next to you, this is sharing time, so you can definitely steal their ideas and write them down for your own too. You know, put them in your own words, but yeah.
Change, strange, rhyme, except they added every line is like like this will start where it is. That's all straight.
Yeah.
I can't spell today. I'm not joking. I can't spell.
For the structure part, the structure part is like you're looking at it sort of how it's laid out on the page. So you're looking at line breaks, maybe where the stanza begins or ends, what is repeated, that kind of stuff. Okay, tell me about some enjambment that you found. Did anybody find an instance of enjambment? Lucy?
Literally everywhere.
Yeah, where's the first one that you see?
Still don't know what I was waiting for.
So I kind of feel a pause right there, even though it doesn't have one, where it's like, still don't know what I was waiting for, could be a complete sentence, and my time was running wild could be a complete sentence. But I like how it uses that word "and" to feel like a little bit of a continuation because it continues to do that. Yeah.
That's exactly kind of what I was noticing. Like, I feel like in most, if not all of those situations, like in that next line, it feels like it ends with the word "and," clearly leading to another line.
Yeah.
The next line does continue that sentence, but it feels like it's starting its own sentence, like it could exist on its own without the previous line.
Exactly. And it does that with the tacked on "and" at the end. It does that in both of the two stanzas here, where it's like a million dead-end streets and every time I thought I got it made, or of warm impermanence, and so the days float through my eyes. And by adding the "and" right there instead of at the beginning of the next line, it kind of creates this continuation. So why do you think he does it that way? That's where it gets tricky to talk about structure. It can be, well, it can be tricky to identify it too, but once we identify it, we've got to figure out like why structure it this way. When you hear the song, it feels like that second line is a little bit more rushed than the first and third lines. So why include all of those ands in the second line? Let's look at what it's saying. Still don't know what I was waiting for. And then at the last line, so you have this idea of waiting in the first line, like pausing and like having time. But then it says, and my time was running wild, a million dead-end street sounds. How do the tones switch or the feel of those two lines switch with the inclusion of so many more words? Yeah, Bella.
What like physically like makes you wait after it says waiting and it says time is running wild and the line gets like faster and longer.
Yeah, exactly. So here you are, you're waiting for something to happen, right? And in the second line, you realize you're running out of time and it gets faster and longer. And then and my time was running wild, a million dead-end streets, and every time I thought I got it made, it seemed the taste was not so sweet. Dead-end streets. No dead people. Dead-end street, like a cul-de-sac.
Any street.
No, dead end. END. So anyway,
It's a lot of that.
what else did you notice about the structure? What were you saying to your partners? Yeah, Zoe.
Well, I kind of noticed how like the beginning is kind of running wild and they bring everything, but as the song kind of grows, like different like changes you mentioned and everything until it kind of like it's like ended and like they've grown up a little bit.
Okay, awesome. So it's like at the beginning, it's like we don't know what those changes are going to be. It's causing anxiety. And then as it goes on, you start to get more comfortable with change.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Bella?
Another one is there's put the turn and face the screen, but it's also like all lined up like with each other.
Oh, yeah, that's right. On the page, it's actually like lined up. It's interesting because it feels like two different people, like one person saying changes, like insisting on changes, and then one person saying turn and face the strange. Why do you think it's got that like stutter in it? Changes? What do we make of that meaning? I agree. Riley?
Well, it's very strange. Strange, but it's strange.
Exactly. He's stuttering, like it feels like he's stuttering out of fear, right? It's like changes, and someone is saying, no, just turn and face the strange, like almost like a reassurance. So maybe the way it's lined up, you get that clear, like call and response feel to it. Yeah. Anything else you want to say about the structure?
With what you just said, in the way it works, it says changes. And it says that, and then the next line says changes, like it's still less. If you want to look at it.
Oh, that's very cool. I didn't realize that. So almost like he is being reassured a little bit. Oh, I really like that. Yeah. All right. Next bit on the cream sheet. Tone. What is the author's attitude towards his or her subjects? How do you know? So in order to answer this question, you got to figure out what is his subject. I think change is a subject, but I think there's other parts in here where he's talking about like the children that you spit on. I think that's another subject. You could say that the faker is a subject. Like you can find multiple subjects in the poem and you're trying to figure out how he feels about those subjects. So take a second, write down your own thoughts about it. Okay, discuss the tones with each other.
I think the subject of change.
Tried to raise us to be good people, not
So I think the second stanza, the second verse is really interesting for this tone question. I watch the ripple change their size, but never lead the stream of warm impermanence. And so the days float through my eyes, but still the days seem the same. And these children that you spit on as they try to change their worlds are immune to your consultations. They're quite aware of what they're going through. So just plot wise, what's going on in that stanza? Yeah.
For at least the first part, he watches like things kind of change, but they're still set in their ways. Like it never leaves the pond, you know?
Yeah.
And then like the people in the pond don't want the pond to change. So they're like spitting on the people that are trying to change things and like
Yeah.
their culture and whatever. But it seems like they're immune. They don't care. They're still trying to get things done.
Yeah, if we follow it, if we follow like the kind of subjects in that last bit, children are being spit on. So there is some you that is spitting on children, but the children are trying to change their world. And what is the reaction to them trying to change their world? This you spitting on them, right? And the children are immune to your consultations. So what does that mean? Immune to your consultations. What does it mean to be immune? Oh, Dane.
Kids don't really listen to what we tell them.
Yeah, exactly. It's like these kids are trying to change the world. These old people, I assume it's old people, are spitting on them and trying to give them advice, and kids are going to change the world anyway because they're quite aware of what they're going through. I love that line because it's like these revolutionary kids, and this is like the 1970s when like all these college students are protesting against the war, like these kids that are like trying to enact change that will actually benefit them. They're the ones who are going off to war, right? Everybody else is like, oh, just, wait till you're older, or we're going to, Dane, stop. Okay. Or we're going to like, I lost my train of thought.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
It's all right.
Do you try to constantly teach us about the things that we happen to be learning about in history?
No, I really don't. Are you
We're
doing
talking about
Vietnam?
Because now we're just getting into like all of the different types
You
of
guys plan
protests. and
that?
stations
No, I
and stuff.
didn't. That's
Makes me-
great though.
I
Every
recently
time it
watched the
happens.
movie, The Trial of the Chicago 7. Oh my God.
Yes, this is a lot like that, right? Like here are these people who are actually trying to change the world, and then
Yeah.
you've got these old fuddy-duddies who are trying to tell them
Um,
what they should actually feel.
yeah.
Fuddy-duddies, wait, is that not a word you guys know? Fuddy-duddies?
I'm adding new buddies.
That's a grandma word. Like if you say, oh, you old fuddy-duddy, it's like somebody who's like stuck in their ways, like, like kind of boring.
All I know is never.
No?
I feel like that's a very funny say.
It is a fuddy-duddy term, yeah. All right, so then how would you say, what's the tone towards the children in that verse? Lucy?
It's almost a little bit sympathetic, like. I don't know,
Agree.
It feels like getting that whole lesson, he's like, they know what they're doing, they know that.
Give them a chance to actually do something. Yeah, right.
Like, it feels like he's kind of speaking for or with them, kind of. Especially a lot of in this second section of it, specifically children that you spit on and then the word wears your shame.
Yeah,
It feels like they're like taking this generation that scolded them all the stuff growing up and scolding them back, being like, okay, you told us to raise us saying we've got to be good people. Now show us.
yeah,
But don't tell, show us.
because spitting is not very polite, and shame on you for doing that. Yeah, let's get to that line actually in the chorus where it says, where's your shame? You've left us up to our necks in it. This is why I think this is such a great youth anthem. Like, you've left us up to our necks in it. What could that mean? I feel like you guys should probably, like, maybe you don't, but I feel like your generation should relate to this line. Yeah, Bella?
Kind of like make down.
Yeah, I like that. I like that interpretation, Bella.
I feel like it's like saying like, oh, you left us with all this crap. You're like blaming it on us,
Yeah.
not fixing it. You're just like, oh, so yours all just climate, but like
Right, here's the economic situation,
Yeah.
here's global warming, and then whatever you're trying to do to change it, we're gonna kind of spit on you for doing it. Like, we're not gonna
But
see it
it's
as
okay, 'cause
worthwhile.
it's you guys certainly don't have to do it. You guys will fix the world. We're just gonna let you do that.
Yeah.
Wait, you're actually doing it? Stop.
No, we don't like that.
We did that. You can't stop.
Yeah,
what
you're
we did.
being annoying.
undo
Yeah, yeah, Arwen.
You know how hard it works? It's just like-
But it's like when your grandma says that you're fat and then you wear clothes that don't look good on you.
Because you messed up my perception of myself. Yeah, that you have put us up to our necks in it. Yeah, like we're almost drowning. We got to do something to save this. Yeah.
It almost feels like it's like a pressure situation, where they're like pressuring you to like live the way that they want you to, kind of what she was saying, right? Which
Yeah.
is like the whole like no change thing. It's like, I know you guys are growing up, but like you guys like can't change from this, like keep on doing what we did,
Yes, exactly. Dave?
Kind of like they want us to progress doing the same things that they did, but their ways are what made all this. all these problems.
That's a good way of saying it. Yeah. Like if we continue along this path, it's going to be like warm impermanence. It might be sort of pleasant for the people who like the way things were, but that's not going to work for progression. Bella?
Part of it is also like the time. Oh, it's giving you this like horrible wrecked world and you need to change it, but they're also like in order, like watching them change it, it makes them, forces them to reconcile with all of the things that they did, they don't want to think about.
The
And so it's
shame.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, it's almost like, oh, you're fixing my mistakes, but the fact that my mistakes happened and you're acknowledging them means that you're shaming me for them, and I don't like that.
That makes sense. Yeah. Riley?
Um, we have the character of like Susan Stardust in the stage, so
Yeah. Yeah.
I think this kind of goes on that whole. David Bowie was a really weird person. Like,
Yeah.
he was super cool, but he was super weird.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of this poem is straight up about he's a very weird guy living in a time that he wasn't so comfortable with.
Yeah.
And so he's kind of tough. He wants to change. He wasn't allowed to change. Now he's realizing he's kind of running out of time. And he needs to be the authentic self. Wants other people to understand.
Yeah.
Whether that's, you know, being a part of movements that inspire you or just dressing a week.
Right. Right. Yeah, I like that. So that he's like, he's getting older, but he doesn't want other people to kind of make the same mistakes of being afraid of change. Or I wouldn't say he's afraid of change, but of like avoiding change.
Like, don't be afraid of the repercussions.
Yeah, good. Okay.
You know, David Bowie at his concert stick a sock in his pants.
Okay. Imagery is next. So with that note. Yeah, so in the poem, what images are standing out to you and how did the description of these images affect the meaning of the poem? So I want you to find one in the poem that you're like, this one stands out to me as a good image to talk about. So if you found your image now, I want you to look at the physical qualities of the image. So an image, like if it's the stream, right? Stream of warm impermanence. I want you to actually write down some of the physical characteristics. We did this last time with mirrors. So write down, what is a stream like? Yeah, okay, yeah. Or like whatever image you are looking at, like what does this thing actually look like in real life? You know? Bella, were you gonna say something? Oh, not yet, not yet. Yes, yeah. Yeah, you're able to write on both. Okay, and I didn't have you get your Chromebooks out for this, so you can use your phones for this next bit. Under language, it says, what are the connotations and denotations of significant words in the poem? I want you to find a word that is used with the image. So if you're talking about warm impermanence, you could look up impermanence and what does impermanence mean? You could look up warm. It might actually have some interesting definitions of it. A dead end street, you can look up the definition of dead end, right? So I want you to look up the denotation of one of the words associated with the image and write down the denotation. So denotation means dictionary definition. Yeah, connotation is culturally agreed upon definition, which is just like how we feel about that word. And it could be the word, like the image itself. Here's why I have you look up words that we maybe we definitely know the meaning of. I don't think there are any words in this song that you don't know the meaning of. But when you look up the dictionary definition, it can sometimes sort of free your brain up to think of why the image is so powerful. So let's say I did, so the days float through my eyes. I was like, that is a great image. This idea of like, I think of like cartoons when the calendar, starts floating away and the days just pass. There we go. So I'm thinking of this word float though, and
When you look at the sky, it's just all
little proteins.
shadows.
So I look up the word float, for example, and it's like, so the days are floating on, and the definition is rest or move on or near the surface of a liquid without sinking, move or hover slowly, lightly in a liquid or the air, drift. And I really like that word lightly, like that wasn't something that kind of like occurred to me about why that image was standing out to me. But this idea that the days are floating and that floating is something that is light means that you're not really getting the consequences of your days, like that they're just sort of like kind of drifting through your mind, and that it doesn't feel as important as a day should feel, because a day spent is now a day gone forever, right? And that should feel important. But when I look up float, it's signifying to me why that's kind of
Someone look up the meaning of the word net.
That sounds sad.
I'm not getting it.
Sounds really sad.
yeah, that did sound sad, didn't it?
That's why I said.
Oh, got it.
That's why.
Okay, got it.
Oh, okay. Because neck also means people who kiss and caress amorously. So see, you never, you gotta.
We started netting on this so
What?
Which one is that?
Oh, you.
All right, now think of the connotations. So
Started with
really quickly, we did this last year, but I just want to show like the importance of connotation. So let's say there's a word like fat, right? What are some other words that someone could use to mean the same thing as fat? Okay, thick, and this is this kind of thick, right?
With two C's.
All right,
Oh, she's a fact.
Big.
big,
Grande.
grande, obese, someone said.
Think of that too.
Okay, let's get away from thick, because I'm uncharted territory. I don't know what they all mean, and I don't want to hang around the floor. Yeah,
Chunky.
chunky, good.
Ugh.
Along with that, chubby. What if you're trying to compliment somebody, but you also want to make sure that we know that they're, on the heavier side?
Huge.
Lizzo.
Big boned.
Lizzo.
My husband says barrel chested. Which I think is very cute.
the word fat again, but with a PH.
Yeah.
No, that means something different. That means pretty hot and tempting. That's doesn't.
Oh.
Fat. It's like-
Wow, I'm a child. What else?
We were doing that last in the 90s. This is revolutionary.
Yes. That with a PH was.
Did
in
you
there.
use thick with a QUE?
No, we didn't use thick at all. How about voluptuous?
Oh, I feel like that.
Gargantuan.
That one's even more tantalizing. than that.
Curvy, right? Yeah,
Gargantuan.
okay. So you get the point. If you were wanting to say, someone shows you their brand new baby and it is a fat baby, would you say, oh, your baby's so fat? Or what would you say?
Chubby.
You'd say chubby, right? Because
I
that
would
one means
love to
cute.
drop kick your baby.
If you were, we don't really have any like, what do you say, gargantuan?
Yeah.
Titanic.
Okay. If you were being really mean and you were bullying somebody,
Titanic.
yeah, you could use that. You could
Good
use,
too.
I mean, if you're really trying to be like I feel like obese has turned into a word that with the connotation, it might be medical, but also it might be like mean.
You could
You
say they
know?
cost 10 elixir.
Let's say you are trying to, let's say you're trying to say, like, it's, the person is on the heavier side, but like, it's my best friend and I want to like compliment her for it.
Curvy.
Okay,
with
good.
3 Cs.
Right? So we've got all these words. Luckily, like these days, I feel like we have tons of words of describing like bigger bodies that are way more complimentary, right? But all of these words really kind of mean the same thing.
David Bowie was British.
Yes. All of these words kind of mean the same thing, but we're using them all in these different contexts because we know the connotations of these words. The connotations are like built into our culture, right? So of the word that you looked up the denotation, write down what the connotations of that word are. So what are the feelings behind that word? When is that word
I do
used?
not have a lot of feelings when I think of the word neck.
Yeah, neck is a tough one. Yeah.
Never mind.
Oh, you know what would have been better is left.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
You've come too far.
Okay.
I'm trying to find a real deep meaning for the word neck.
I mean, I feel like neck has a positive connotation, like it's what holds up our brains, which is like our identity.
Because, yeah, it's like support, like a foundation.
It's English class. You can make it.
But also it's it's known as like the jugular, the sensitive part. That's what you go for if you're.
And if you break your neck, you're
And
You're
so
really in
if
trouble.
you're
Unless
up to
you're
your-
really
if you're
lucky.
up to your neck in something, it's really uncomfortable and vulnerable because it's your neck, like, and the rest of your body.
That's amazing. That's a really good reading of it. Okay, move on to the theme now. I want you to collaborate on this one. So with the people next to you, see if you can think of what the theme is for this poem. So in this case, a theme could also be like a bit of advice, like an argument that it has, like you should be this way. Or you shouldn't be this way.
Like our next touch.
It's about the poem. What is the poem? Not just about next. All right, last bit is the language, or sorry, the sounds. This part is like, I probably should have left more space for it because in a poem, it's all about the sounds. Like the reason that, I mean, this is a big, long conversation, but one of the ways that poetry is different than prose is that the poet thinks about every word they're putting into that poem so carefully because they have this really limited amount of space. So it's like they need every word to pull its weight and they need every word to have the right sound to convey the meaning. So find some words that are interesting in that poem in the way that they sound. Like which words sound good to your ear? Like, which words sound good to my ear? Ripple and warm. Those sound nice to my ear. Ripple. That sounds like a ripple actually sounds like what it is. It's almost an onomatopoeia. A ripple, right? Huh?
You should pronounce both these.
Rippable. Yeah, that is even better. I like the word warm. It's got like this nice, like warm, no harsh letters at all. Like I'm not clicking at all when I say that word. Just it's like it makes this big space in my mouth. Warm. It sounds like warm feels to me. So think about the words that sound good. Think about the words that sound bad. See if you can find any rhymes in there and write about those words, those feelings, those sounds. You can find sounds that repeat with like alliteration, assonance, consonants. Just write a bunch of your thoughts on the sounds in the poem. I like that you said unconventional instead of wrong. Just take the land. Okay, and then share your thoughts with the person next to you about sound. What words that make you stand out?
How do you know this? I just like, I'm not gonna say anything. You did it again. So you gave the chairs. Tables.
All right, we gotta make 7 tables just like this. So, with the people next to you, make little tables of 4, and then take all your stuff. You can put the Bowie away. You can put the poetry terms away, and just have the cream paper and a pencil or pen. There's a lot of instructions at once. So all you need for this next activity is the cream paper and something to write with. And then we're moving the dust into little tables. Total, we gotta have 7 of them. Little stations, and you're clearing your desk of everything and standing to the side.
Oh, no, that's totally the same. Beautiful. It's gorgeous, but I don't have that skill. Yeah, still really forgot.
had to come back, but he'll make informed decisions. I might not have enough desks to make 7 of them, I just realized.
Oh, I just drew on my shirt.
My brain is scratched.
Why did you make it?
Okay, we push these desks together.
It works out.
Oh, thank you.
All right, awesome. So you can go wherever there's a poem. You just need to make sure there's at least one other person at the station with you. So head there and you can sit wherever you want.
This table.
I beat the level of This is why I don't play video games. This is dumb.
Okay, there is a poem about change at everyone's table. First thing we're gonna do is someone's gonna volunteer to read theirs aloud to the group. So volunteer. And then go ahead, read yours out loud to the group.
No time, thou shalt not boost that I do change. My pyramid fills up with new and bright. To me are nothing novel, nothing strange. They are but dresses of the former sight. Their dates are brief, their cycle fire. But thou dost voice of time as not any. And rather make them born to our desire. Think that we before have heard them. Thy registers and thee I both perform, not wondering at the present nor the past, for thy return. And what we doth lie, may more or less be that continual case. This I do vow, and this shall ever be, I will be true, despite thy strife, life, and thee. Okay, I understand that. There's too much vow in there.
I know. Like, I need
You dropped your bar up? Yeah. It's my language arts class. I'm working, I like to read aloud, and like, that's really bad at reading it loud. Like, can you read it, like, get better at that?
If you have a little brother or sister you can read aloud to, or like an older person, that it's really just like through practice and going slower. Yeah. But, I don't know, most people are bad at reading aloud.
Yeah, I was reading aloud, and like, reading class is better than me.
like how
Yeah, I should probably have you read aloud more, but I don't like the way that it calls people out sometimes. So.
I don't.
All right, once you've read the poem, you're going to write the name of that poem at the top of this second page of your cream paper. And then you have 20 minutes to go through your poem and fill out this sheet for your particular poem, all right? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so if you are working from home, I'm gonna post a couple of these poems and you can choose which one you want to do. And then you're just gonna fill it out on your own. You won't have group help for it. And then that is the end of class.